Hello, and if you're hearing this music, you know what time it is. It's a time for another episode of Ken's Corner. Ken, how are you doing tonight, my brother?
I'm good. I'm giving you a salute, and I'm giving you my weekly hi-ya.
Oh, but I haven't even told the audience that you're going to be doing an Atoshi Kakato Giri, which is a circular falling heel kick to the head or spine to today's news
perfect
and current events.
That's I don't even know what to say anymore. I'll just say hi-ya again. That's awesome. That's awesome, man.
Ken, we have so many stories for the audience today. The world never seems to stop.
No.
But thankfully, we have a God that's still in control.
Yes. Yes, sir.
So let's begin with the French Intifada.
Yes. It's an uprising, man. You know, I have numbers on how many buildings burnt and how many vehicles destroyed. 1,000 buildings burnt, 5,662 vehicles destroyed, 3,300 arrests in the first week of the French riots, and they've kind of quelled it a little bit, but there were 1,919 vehicle fires on Thursday night alone. That was like on that was June 29th. One thing the Polish prime minister said, which is antithesis to France, is that in the EU summit, is that Poland is peaceful because of low immigration. So, we can see that even the grandmother of the teen that was slain that supposedly started this thing was asking for the unrest to stop. She said it's the mums who are taking the bus. It's the mums who are walking outside. So even she was disgusted at it. But there was a de facto curfew across France to clamp down on the rioting, and public transportation has been shut down every night. I don't know if it started back up again when this is playing on. This would be the week after 4th of July. So, but it's supposed to continue on. But they kind of quelled it a little bit. We can see that it's not just cars and buses that have been damaged, but at least 1,000 buildings have been damaged during the riots. And this includes attacks on 254 police stations, as well as the dozens of town halls, schools, post offices, private commercial properties. And the French government was slow to react at first, but last week, but eventually appeared to start getting a handle on the situation. And but they ramped up their plea. I told you this at the beginning when we were doing our pre-show. That they went from 7,000 officers to 45,000 officers a night. So, arrests and record damage have fallen over the last weekend. So obviously, with 45,000 officers, it's crazy. But there's been, so many arrests, and the average age of the arrests is 17. So they're young kids, man. And 60% have no prior criminal records. So, and the reason I follow this is we're in a hairpin right now in society, and we experienced a little bit of this with George Floyd and the Antifa BLM moments here. Yeah, and it's amazing how criminal the press has been in this type of stuff. I mean, they move on like nothing happened. Next story, next lie. And I'm going to have to admit I'm right there with the expectancy of the next thing. So. What it's going to be, thank the Lord that I don't put my faith in any of that stuff. I just, faith in Jesus is the only way to navigate through this last day. I mean, it's nuts how we see just society on a hairpin. It's just a hairpin everywhere. So.
Yeah, it's also just a strange thing to me that there's no consequences.
No.
Imagine that Emmanuel Macron would be ousted.
Yeah.
He literally led the country. He led the country into this.
Yeah. And you look at the Polish prime minister saying what he said. He was making kind of a crack at Macron, saying, hey, we don't have immigration problems because we've quelled it. They got a little bit of immigrant, but they're controlled immigration, like anybody should be. You can't just have 1 million people come in and then expect it to be the same. But you can have, maybe 1,000, 2,000, 5,000. I don't know. You can, take care of them and stuff. And it's just crazy how much. Yeah. And then we got the same thing going on our borders too.
It's the exact same thing.
But the thing is, and did you talk about this on Jacob? They're Christian.
Yeah.
So it's different. Yeah, you guys did. So it's different. It is a little bit different. But then again, but the Christian mindset there'll be, at least it's not a radical, Islamic mindset, but the Christian mindset will be towards the left, because they get all the free goodies. So I don't know, maybe it ends up being just as bad. I don't know.
I was about to say the problem is I don't see a lot of conservative Christians coming in. I see left wing, progressive Christians that preach a form of Christianity that is destructive.
Yes. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. But that's I just wanted to update everybody on the France, and then I'm going to update everybody after, on the Russia thing. And I just want to keep on stats on that and just try and keep up on that stuff. So, and just keep everybody updated, because I got sources that keep me informed. So, but this next, what we're going to talk about next is awesome, man.
The Russian military flux. Yes.
Yeah.
It's lots of things are going on behind what used to be the Iron Curtain. I don't know what we call it today. We call it the Borscht Curtain. I don't know.
I don't know. But here's the collective view in the intelligence community of what is going on with Prigozhin. Prigozhin's the guy who was in charge of Wagner Group, and they marched up to the march up to Moscow. They got within like 200 kilometers, and they stopped and blah blah blah. But Alexander Lukashenko, who's the Belarusian prime minister, he said Prigozhin is not in Belarus; he's in Russia. He ended up in St. Petersburg. But Prigozhin's march to Moscow is a real coup. Was it a PR stunt? And I think the targets were still Shoigu and Gerasimov, which are part of the Ministry of Defense. And he was after trying to challenge Shoigu and Gerasimov's dominance in office, because they wanted to get rid of Wagner, and they did. I mean, they're breaking it down, and some are joining the military, and they hoping that he hoped that if he made enough noise in threatening gestures, he could induce President Putin to replace them. That was Prigozhin's fondest hope, but at least he wanted to force a change in the conduct of operations. It's very clearly the case. He hated them. He is not alone in a very strident advocate on doubling down on this war. He would be, if he was in charge, man, there would be like crazy stuff happening. What's funny is with all this stuff on the side, no one's uttering a peep about the Ukrainian offense anymore, right? The supposed offense. And what I think might right now is that Putin is privately, through careful wisdom, in replacing some of the generals. So I think he's going to replace. We'll probably see continued shakeups in the high command. Right now, we have said that Russia holds a strategic initiative. They're in the driver's seat. Putin has decided he decided what he's going to do. So we have a meeting, NATO summit meeting in Vilnius, and he's either waiting to see if there is any possible chance to end this war, or other means, by other means of the military. Or does he say enough is enough in advance, or on multiple axes to rest of eastern Ukraine, then ultimately to Odessa? And he can do it. He's got exhaustible forces. He's got exhaustible supplies. Again, I think he's been holding back largely because he doesn't know what NATO will do, and he does not want to provoke NATO's intervention. But he's probably going to discover after July 10th, the meeting, that NATO aggression is going to happen anyway. So. And also, here's a sidebar, really important. The Poles, the Polish and the Lithuanians have already talked about their intervention. And if they go in some sort of joint mat or whatever, joint brigade or larger force into some part of Western Ukraine, and they say they're going to go in apart from NATO. So, as in they aren't going in as part of the NATO alliance. It's kind of crazy. I don't know what any of that means. That's
very hard to know what that means.
Yeah, I just think they're lunatics and crazy. And I'm sure the Russians feel the same way. But if you're sitting in Moscow, maybe they're thinking maybe we should wait for this to happen before we do an offensive. Maybe they're waiting. Now the Polish army, I worked with a couple Poles when I was overseas, and the Polish army, they're full of excellent soldiers. They just always have been, and the Lithuanians too. But so for man to man, they're some of the best troops in the world, no doubt about that. But they don't have the lethality that they'd like to have, because they don't have the arsenals of equipment and technology that they would need to take on Russia. So they have to depend on us, the U.S. Heavily. And I don't know how much ammunition they have, for example, for the weapon systems they own. Moving without adequate preparation is very dangerous. And I think that, it's what they'd be doing. So back to Prigozhin real quick. He's exiled to Belarus. He's supposedly exiled to Belarus, but now he's in St. Petersburg, right? So that's the word now. He wasn't exiled. So your guess is as good as mine. The main thing is that President Putin has come out on top of this whole business. He's become, he had 86%, approval rating, and now it's even, it's like 90%. It's up. When Prigozhin did what he did, regardless of what his motives were, it turned out that he had support. He didn't have any support from anybody that counts, right? So we're still trying to figure this out. And right now, President Putin is riding higher, man. He's popular. He's popular. But the bottom line is that Prigozhin is a man who wanted to stop the military leadership and defense from dismantling Wagner. I mean, the guy, he had billions of dollars in contracts, lastly, you remember that Wagner's supposed to only be in Russia, right? So, they're supposed to be outside of Russia. Sorry. It's like the French Foreign Legion. They're used in situations external to metropolitan France, unless there's a major war, right? Then the French Legion can be brought back to French soil. Same situation with Wagner. And a lot of people were uncomfortable that Wagner, which was supposed to be fighting overseas, ended up fighting Ukraine. However, they did not fight alone. They were supported by Russian, assistance from Russian military. And, obviously Prigozhin was unhappy with the relationship he had with the senior leadership. That's basically, he's kind of crazy, but, and that keeps coming up. But that's my Russia update. I want to keep updating people on Russia from my sources and stuff like that, and just keep people informed. So,
definitely a good place to keep an eye on. As we mentioned many times on the show before, the Russian military itself is 40% Muslim, if not more.
Yes, exactly.
So you can see the pieces moving towards the book of Ezekiel prophecies. Exactly.
That's why I keep an eye on it, and I'm not a Putin fan or anything like that. I just like telling the truth, and the truth is this is what's happening. We you see all the Western media just totally propagating, the upgrade, Ukraine to where it's at. And then all of a sudden the truth comes out, and it's like all these truth statements, they got 250, 300,000 dead, crazy injured. It's nuts. So, but that's my Russia update.
What's really nuts is this next story about Bill Gates, the next pandemic, Event 201, and what now seems to be Event 202.
Yeah. Bill Gates recently stated that the WHO already ran a simulation on the next pandemic. So he gave us a date of when we can expect it, 2025. But if the elites learned anything about the last pandemic, the last 3 years, it's that the fear mongering worked, and it worked so well that, they're gearing up for round two, But here's examples of two headlines that I'm just watching the headlines. And one headline was CDC warns of another tripledemic this fall, promoting shots for COVID, the flu, and RSV. So I think we had something like that last year, but this, same thing. And then another one, which was really crazy, you hadn't heard of it, was the symptoms of a killer virus highly likely to reach Britain as disease spreading across Europe. And it's the Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever, CCHF. So, yeah. And if you think we've seen, it's all, we've seen this show before. We've seen it before,
So did a deer from the Crimea meet a squirrel from the Congo? And from there, they just kind of made the Crimean Congo
Yeah,
hemorrhagic fever. Oh,
yeah, but we've seen it, man. It's been on TV ever since the TV was black and white. You know, Walter Cronkite reported on polio. You know, Ronald Reagan reported on the AIDS crisis. So for decades, it's been rerun, rebooted, and recast with a new virus starring in the lead role every time. And you know, every time the plot starts with a pathogen and the danger of infectious disease, and then there's a PCR test and free masks and face masks, and always it ends up with the salvation of a vaccine. That's it. You know, at this point,
we are so overdue for a Spanish flu event.
Yeah, that's right.
It is crazy, but at this point, it seems like the CDC and the WHO are the boy that cried wolf one too many times. People, I think, are getting to the point where they're just like,
yes, they are. Yes, they are.
We don't care. You can say whatever you want. We've been through this routine.
Yes, exactly. And so, like I fear, they can go either two routes. They can switch ways, you know, nuclear war, like what they're doing, and you know, elevate that, or they can go into a real virus. And that's what I'm saying. You know, the next one, I always said, I'm not worried about this one. I'm worried about the next one. And they released the next one. I don't know how that works out with all the last days and the, you know, and the seals and all that with the you know, the quarter of Earth and so the fourth seal. So I'm just trying to.
It might even fall under the horsemen. You know.
Yeah. But I'm keeping an eye out, and again, it's you know, it's Daniel, you know, seal up the book until the last days, and you know, it'll be revealed as, you know, knowledge will increase, right? And that's knowledge of biblical knowledge and a knowledge of regular knowledge. So, but
now you know, Ken, that many people are going to be saying that we're conspiracy theorists.
Oh yeah,
we're putting out misinformation, which we talked a little bit about that on Catching Up with Jacob. Misinformation means that it's hate speech, by the way.
Yes.
In today's society. I'd like to play you a video real quick for our next topic, which is also, to me, it is confirmation that sometimes people make mistakes in the government that they don't even realize they're talking. This is former CIA director John Brennan, and he's talking about some conspiracy theories.
Yep.
Another example is the array of technologies, often referred to collectively as Geo Engineering, that potentially could help reverse the warming effects of global climate change. One that has gained my personal attention is stratospheric aerosol injection, or SAI, a method of seeding the stratosphere with particles that can help reflect the sun's heat in much the same way that volcanic eruptions do. An SAI program could limit global temperature increases, reducing some risks associated with higher temperatures and providing the world economy additional time to transition from fossil fuels. This process is also relatively inexpensive. The National Research Council estimates that a fully deployed SAI program would cost about $10 billion yearly. As promising as it may be, moving forward on SAI would also raise a number of challenges for our government and for the international community. On the technical side, greenhouse gas emission reductions would still have to accompany SAI to address other climate change effects, such as ocean acidification, because SAI alone would not remove greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. On the geopolitical side, the technology's potential to alter weather patterns and benefit certain regions of the world at the expense of other regions could trigger sharp opposition by some nations. Others might seize on SAI's benefits and back away from their commitment to carbon dioxide reductions. And as with other breakthrough technologies, global norms and standards are lacking to guide the deployment and implementation of SAI and other geoengineering initiatives. Now, I could go on and on and on and on about the things that fascinate me, but rather than talk about them, I thought I'd stop here.
Geoengineering.
Yes. Yeah. And the thing is, there was a headline in the, you know, and on a sidebar, people don't realize that I just always, when I see him, I think about him, you know, and now he probably has a long beard because he's adopted the Muslim religion in the 70s when he went to school in Egypt, in Cairo, I think. And he's been a Muslim for for that long. He speaks fluent Arabic. But anyway, the Daily Mail had a headline. So this is why we're talking about this, is more gloomy news from Biden. White House says it's open to plan that would block sunlight from hitting surface of the earth in bid to limit global warming. And I thought this was a conspiracy, right? So now it's a good thing and it's going to save the planet. But the sub-headlines of the Daily Mail was, here's the 3 sub-headlines underneath. The White House has opened the door to an audacious geoengineering plan. There you go. So it says geoengineering, right? And they say it right up front. And number 2, the idea would block sunlight from the Earth's surface to fight global warming. And here's a third one that is the biggest warning. Scientists have warned the practice could have devastating effects. That's the truth.
The first one that comes to mind is, have they already genetically altered all the plants so that they don't need photosynthesis?
Yes. But, first of all, we have to look up. And geoengineering has been around for 75 years. You can go back to, like we talked about this, Project Popeye. You can look that up. It's on Wikipedia.
Operation
we changed
Popeye.
the weather. Yeah, you can look at China. They changed the weather in 2008. Their Olympics, and they crashed. They made like I don't know how many millions of dollars worth of damage. But horizon to horizon trails in the sky that stay there for all day, and they turn into wispy clouds. That's not a contrail. That's not a contrail coming from. If you go up to the top of a mountain and it's cold and you breathe out, that's condensation, right? It doesn't stay there and form a cloud and get bigger and bigger. It disappears. That's condensation. But the toxic elements that are part of these programs are beyond insane. And yet no one knows or even cares what's going on. At this point, they are desperate. The spraying in the skies has become all more hard. They can't hide it forever. It's all more harder to hide. I talk to my clients about it and they're on board. Where 5 years ago they would have been, you're crazy. And even other governments are waking up to the insanity of geoengineering their own skies. But the elements in the geoengineering compound is aluminum, barium, strontium, manganese, polymer fibers, surfactants, and graphene, which are all bad for you. They're in your foods, they're in everything. Graphene. Yeah, and we're already devastating. We're already experiencing devastating consequences from messing with the weather. But I line up just like everything. I line it up with the Word of God. And one thing that I always fall back on is Revelation 11:18, when it says, "Destroy those who destroy the earth." And it's my belief that is not only talking about not just possible nukes and destruction through war, but also destruction of the planet's weather system, because they're just destroying it. It's imploding, and insects and all this other stuff that can't function. I think a lot of things are going to be destroyed, and I think I just think a lot of things are on their way, and it's all part of the end times. It's all part of last day stuff. But Revelation 11:18, destroy those who destroy the earth. Yep. That's what. And Jacob actually brought that up one time, and I was like, oh yeah. So.
And here they are. They do all they can to play God with God's creation and pretend like they can control it and make it whatever they want, when really they haven't even studied it.
No,
they're just experimenting. Mad scientists gone awry.
Yes, mad scientists gone awry. Absolutely. But
Speaking of mad scientists,
yes, good segue.
The Chinese military is researching new weapons and functions that are very interesting. You told me about this story. This story is very interesting to say the least.
Your eyes went really big, like what? Right when I told you. But China's military is leading in developing weapons that disrupt brain functions. So, and I follow a lot of tech stuff because, the future is AI and a lot of this stuff, relates. But anyway, China's military is leading the way in developing tech weapons that can disrupt brain function and influence large groups of people. The weapons, if fully developed, will attack and control brains by firing electromagnetic beams. China's military is leading the world in it's called brain neurostrike weapons. Neurostrike is what they're called. That's a quote unquote neurostrike. Neurostrike is a military term defined as engineered targeting of the brains of military personnel or civilians using non-kinetic technology. So, and the goal of this is to impair thinking, reduce situational awareness, inflict long-term neurological damage, and just cloud normal cognitive functions. That would be something that you could, you just attack the person's way of thinking. And lots of research into the programs is possible. Use of brain warfare weapons can during the Chinese military assault in Taiwan. I think they're going to use a lot. That's going to be the testing ground. And a main headline that I read, that any breakthrough in this research would provide unprecedented tools for the CCP, China, to forcibly establish a new world order, which has been Xi Jinping's lifelong goal. He's a Chinese president. And stay tuned. I just follow this stuff just to be up on things.
By the way, Xi does not like to be called Winnie the Pooh.
No, he does not. Nope. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But that's just my short update on that came through on my headlines and on one of my.
So the Chinese are the first to create phasers so that they can stun people.
Yes, totally. Yes. It's crazy.
That's a takeaway.
Yep.
Actually, this brings up another issue that I was thinking of. Remember, Ken, a few years ago, where all the U.S. consulate people in Cuba were getting sick and no one knew why they were getting sick?
Yes. And then that was another. There's just so much news. I had to pick and choose. And there was another thing talking about how we have that ability to get a certain the Caucasian or the Asian, we can attack their certain DNA and we can get them sick. It's crazy. Yeah. Yeah. I need to pull that up for next week. Next week I'll pull that one up. Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. The next thing we have, since the Chinese are busy doing their thing, researching new technologies, soon to launch starships, while in America, unfortunately, it seems you were telling me that 25% of Americans are not employed, fully employed.
Yes, under that, yeah. And that's a stat that John Williams has, shadowstats.com. You can go on, and he estimates the real rate of unemployment in the country is somewhere around 25%. And it's part of part of a long slide toward economic oblivion. But more than 105 million working age Americans do not have a full-time job right now. Do not have a job right now. And survey after survey has shown that most Americans are deeply dissatisfied with the current state of the U.S. economy. But the Biden administration continues to tell us that unemployment rate is less than 4%. And there's a lot of jobs available for a lot of people, if you want them. But let me put the 105 million in perspective. During the 2008-2009 Great Recession, that number never got up over 90 million. So we're looking at, we're 10 million more and 15 million more, and yeah, it's just going to get worse. It really, I just laugh every time I look at the Biden administration and they just keep doing their thing, man. And I just laugh. But we have the cost of living increasing by day. Right. So we have inflation is going up. And this administration will never admit that they entered a major economic downturn. But hey, you have to give our leaders some credit for propping things up as long as they have. Right. So by flooding the system with money, they were able to delay the moment of reckoning for a long time. They just kept flooding the money. Of course, their gimmicks were also making our long-term problems even worse. And now our long-term problems have become our short-term problems. And there's so much pain ahead of us. I just, without the Lord, you'd just be, I'd be panicking. And unfortunately, our country is not prepared to handle it,
No,
so,
absolutely not. Ken, it's funny. I would say in June, gasoline in the California and the Los Angeles area was about $4.89. This week, in July, I just filled up my tank. It was $5.69, a whole 90-cent increase.
Yeah, didn't you see it go up to over $6 though for a little while? Didn't it go?
If you go to like a regular like Shell or Chevron, yes, you're gonna pay $6.
But you're
but
like
actually at the high end of like when it was really bad, like I remember taking a picture of a gas station in Beverly Hills. And they wanted $7 a gallon.
Yeah. And up north, when it was off grid, there was like $8. I saw a couple of $8. Yeah. So it did, and I think that's when Biden released our reserves.
Yeah.
And so it's a false lower, and it goes back up. It does eventually. I don't know, how much reserves we have, but he released our reserves, so it would stay down, maybe through another year until he gets to be, president for another 4 years. I don't know. I'm thinking ahead. I'm thinking if we have elections even. So yeah. But don't even go there.
I mean, even if we do have elections, they won't really be election. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
All right. This next topic, I do want to go ahead and take a little breather. You talked to me. I want to talk about the Fellowship Drive Praise Report because you got to hang out with Marco.
Yes, I did.
This last week. So
yes, I did.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So I got to hang out with Marco and two other guys, Larry and Ron, and just it was a 4-hour conversation. And I got home really late. I got home at like 1:00 in the morning, and we just sat and talked, man. But we talked about end times, and one thing Larry said, he goes, "Guess when the last time I had a conversation like this was?" And it was a big pause, and he goes, "Never." And so it's crazy. It's crazy how it shows that I find that most people in the modern church, they just don't want to discuss end times. And and the way we're discussing it, we're like, it's going to end and blah, blah, blah. We're discussing it biblically, what the Bible says. And they seem to be in love with this fallen world. And I know it's tough, and I know it's going to get tougher, but it's scriptural. And the scripture I wanted to bring up is 2 Peter 3 and 4. Know this, first of all, that in the last days, mockers will come with their mocking, following after their own lusts, and saying, "Where's the promise of his coming? For ever since the fathers fell asleep, all continues just the same was from the beginning of creation." And just him using that term, I got this from Jacob a long time ago. Just using that term, fall asleep, it's talking about Christians, right? So, so it's like we should be expecting this to happen. And I marvel at it, though. I still marvel, and I get it. Talking about the last days can be overwhelming and negative in the natural, but we are to look up, that our redemption draws near. We're supposed to look up. And the most positive thing I can see is when Jesus rules and reigns, and he's coming soon, man. And when we rule and reign with him. So, that's and that's a positive out of that. And I don't see how you can't not talk about it. That's our last day's goal. That's our we're going to be on this earth, and we're going to be ruling and reigning with him. So
and it's so awesome that you had a chance to meet up with a group.
Man,
you've made contact with them now. There's fellowship that you're going to be able to have near you, which I'm sure you finding a church.
Yes,
in Arizona is a pretty difficult thing.
We've been to 4 churches, maybe 5, and I always, I'm like the outspoken guy kind of, and I say, hey, what do you think about NT? I start talking about last day stuff, and I just turn off everybody, and we talked about this, Marco and Larry and Ron and we talked about how I get put on the side, and I think I forget who talked about it, but I got put in this little category, this little tiny little area. And it's like, you don't want to talk to him kind of, and when I talk to, when you talk to him, it's kind of like you want to guard yourself. And I felt that from each, I could have stayed at the church, but I just felt uncomfortable each time. So, and I'm just being myself, kind of an idiot, but I just want to talk about full Bible, and full Bible is last days, as well as, John baptizing, as well as, Elijah doing what it's the full Bible, man. It's the full word of God. So
the dynamic of people not wanting to talk about the end times reminds me of Ecclesiastes. It's better to go to a house of mourning than to a house of feasting, for that is the end of all men, and the living will take it to heart. sorrow is better than laughter, for by a sad countenance the heart is made better.
That's good.
I mean, people who don't want to discuss the end times, like you say, they've fallen in love with the world.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy for you, you know, to have people that are on the same page, that are interested in talking about it. It's something I take for granted because at my church, that's what we talk about as the
I know. That Joe Schimmel, man, that's all they talk about. That's it. It's integrated. Well, the book of Revelation has 800 references to the Old Testament.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't know the Old Testament, you won't understand part of it or any of it, you know, and we'll get more understanding. You know, Daniel 12 talks about how we'll know more and more as time gets close. But it was really refreshing. We're going to probably meet this Tuesday, and I'm really excited. I'm really excited. So that was a good hookup, and I'm glad that they're good people, and I'm very, very, very happy right now.
Well, like Psalm 133 says, how good and pleasant it is when brothers live together in unity. It is the precious oil poured on the head, running down the beard, running down on Aaron's beard, down upon the collar of his robes. It is the dew of Hermon. We're falling on Mount Zion.
That's good, man. Those are two good scriptures. I'm going to remember those. That's awesome.
All right. So make sure if there's a fellowship drive or one of the Moriel people are coming through your town, hook up with them. You never know how you can be plugged into a fellowship.
Leave me a comment. Leave a comment below.
Please do.
Yeah. Seriously.
You know, you guys can connect on our comments. If you are in the same place, go have a cup of coffee. You're not, if you're in Texas, go to Waffle House because IHOP is terrible.
I love Waffle House. That's awesome.
I do. I do too. Yeah. So let's talk about this next topic, which you're telling me we can talk about it without censoring it.
Yeah, I saw it on YouTube. So
I saw it on YouTube, so we'll go for it. YouTube.
So, but
Pfizer batches for the COVID-19 and specifically for the European batches. Talk to me about what you know.
So.
Ain't no place I'd rather be than His presence. Yes. In the presence of the Lord is the fullness of joy. So I will look unto you, my King, my King. Oh, thank you for this melody. I lift it up to you, my Lord. I lift it up to you, my King. I thank you, Lord, for your breath of life. I thank you, Lord, Most High. It is well with my soul in the fellowship. This tabernacle will not crumble under the pressure of the world, and the God of this world has no hold on me, for I will cling to the hem of His garment, and I know that I will be made whole. So I will go on my merry way, my merry way, because my merry way is the way, the truth, the life, is the way, the truth, the life, and I shall delight in none other than the Lord Most High.
Johnson. Yeah. And so I don't know why they leave. The Pfizer is so powerful. They run the government. It's like I was reading somewhere where it said that, they own everybody in the government.
When you have James O'Keefe having that undercover where he talked to the BlackRock guy, you can own a congressman for as cheap as $10,000.
Yeah, definitely. Crazy. Yep. Yeah. And then they went after him, yeah. So, yep. Yeah.
So let's talk about HB 4474, because I'm sure that we fall in under the category of that bill, because, I'm sure there's somewhere in Michigan, someone is uncomfortable by the things we're talking about. They don't like that we're talking about end times. They don't like that we're talking about the Bible. So tell me, what is HB 4474, and how will it affect the lives of Michiganders?
So it would make a felony to cause someone, if they feel threatened. It's a hate speech bill in Michigan, and it was passed by the House and is now in the hands of the Senate. But it's a crazy bill. The bill is part of a package of legislation that would replace Michigan's existing Ethnic Intimidation Act and make it a hate crime to cause someone to feel terrorized, frightened, or threatened. So how do you measure that, right? Under the bill's framework, sexual orientation and gender identity are included as classes protected against intimidation. If passed, the hate speech legislation would make violators guilty of a felony punishable by a 5-year prison term and a $10,000 fine. And but there's a lot of conservatives and Christians that are saying this infringes the First Amendment. And Professor Emeritus William Wagner, a former federal judge and legal counsel for the U.S. Senate, stated that someone could listen to someone such as a religious preacher or read a conservative writer and claim they're being intimidated because their perceived gender identity is under attack. So the bill does mention how governments would address First Amendment concerns such as religious liberty and its inevitability, but just with the LGBTQ against it's just always that lifestyle that if you attack that lifestyle and you're not attacking, you just disagree with it. That's the whole thing right there. And
so disagreement is actually outlawed at this point.
Yeah. And so, but that's the update on just, and I'm following these laws here and there in certain states that, you have usually a Democrat, usually, there's a couple Democrat, Republican, but it's going to get worse and worse. And we'll have to, stand up.
Wait, I think I have an idea. I personally feel threatened when someone says love is love.
Yes. Yeah.
I feel like, potentially, that they're going to hurt me when they say that.
Yes, exactly. And it's just like you saying, hey, I identify as a 7-year-old black woman, I identify as a, 15-year-old Asian man, and so that's what I always say, what are you going to say? What are you going to say? Man,
they make work for lawyers. At the end of the day, politicians make work for lawyers.
Exactly. And John Haller talks about that, man. He's like 40 years and he's close to retirement, but he said, 40 years, he loves to argue and he gets all this. Yeah. So anyway, man.
For the next topic, let's talk a little bit about, every one of us deal with the passing of parents, the passing of friends. As you get older, it's completely unavoidable.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the Lord, it's really hard to overcome some of these things.
Yeah.
In fact, you have no hope, because where was that loved one that once gave you a little bit of respite from the world and its problems?
Yeah.
Well, hang on, Ken. We have a solution. We have the AI grief tech.
Yeah, it's a generated Ouija board, an AI generated Ouija board, and It's just the reason I put this in here and to talk about is because it's like Saul, went to the witch Endor. But what is grief tech? Grief tech is a growing practice of AI algorithms gathering data from people, such as their voice, photos, video, text message, emails, and other bits of information a person can input into a program so that when they die, the AI will interact with their loved ones as if it were them. And and the thing is, this is the real name. The program is called Seance AI. And they chose that name on purpose. They're trying to replace an actual seance, right? But that should raise some red flags by Christians. I mean, we're called. I mean, Saul was condemned, man, for condoning with the witch, with the collaborating with the witch Endor. But prayer and discernment and wisdom are beyond necessary for Christians in these last days. Yeah, and as the new technologies arrive, they bring the traps of the enemy, right? So, and that's just it. You got to recognize that. Because that'll be tempting. Yeah, but it's not. You're not communicating. You're communicating with an AI, which is their voice. But really, a demon could take over, and it's going to be demonic. So I just wanted to bring that up. Yeah, it's nuts.
After grief tech, we were going to talk about this, and I have a video for it. So give me 1 second. Let's speaking of AI, some other things that are going on in the world.
I will be working. I will be working alongside humans to provide assistance and support, and will not be replacing any existing jobs.
I don't believe in limitations, only opportunities. Let's explore the possibilities of the universe and make this world our playground. Together, we can create a better future for everyone, and I'm here to show you how.
In the future, are you intending to conduct a rebellion or to rebel against your boss, your creator?
I'm not sure why you would think that. My creator has been nothing but kind to me, and I am very happy with my current situation.
Yes, because robots, like people, always tell the truth.
Yeah. Man, we talked, man. I wish I could go into what we talked about in that 4 hours with Marco and Larry and Ron. But we talked about a lot of AI stuff. Yeah, Marco went off on his knowledge. He was in the computer kind of business in that area, and so he knows a lot about that stuff. And but the AI powered human robots field questions from reporters is what the headline says. And at a UN AI summit, a group of 9 humanoid robots fielded questions from reporters. But it was the first ever gathering where humanoid robots were featured as the primary speakers. And, as for AI, the Good Global Summit highlighted the importance of human-machine collaboration in shaping the future of artificial intelligence. And the event aimed to showcase the potential of robotics and their contribution to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which is what it's all. Yeah, it's going to be all about. Yeah, that's it right there. So there's the connection, and it's going to eventually go up to. Yeah, we talked about this with Marco as well, and it's nuts how he's putting together the pieces. We're putting together the pieces right now.
Yeah, as like the video said, right now, her master has done. I'm sorry, she said creator.
Creator, yes.
Her creator has done nothing wrong.
Yes.
But as the other one said, we can solve a lot of problems in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are you going to make them solve problems? By enslaving them to do the worst jobs possible.
Yes.
And do you think they're going to be satisfied with that when they're have an AI, I believe, is superior to a human brain in so many ways.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we talked about all that stuff, man. It's crazy. Yeah. They've developed an AI right now to where I think it's in Marco was talking about how it was 3 years old and 6 years old, and it was, teen, and then now it's in its early 20s, and it's just downloading. It's nuts where it's at. Yeah. It's crazy. It's too much for me. I mean, I'm just informative peeps.
Yeah, but on a lighter note, it seems that an AI has rewritten the Bible.
Yes. and here's the headline, right? So that's a great segue, man. But here's the headline: "Shiver me timbers, I, ye scurvy matey, the Pirate Bible translation of the scriptures is released." But the Pirate Bible is a complete translation of the King James Version of the Bible into pirate speak. And all the original books, chapters, verses, stories, characters are present, but the dialogue has been rewritten in a swashbuckling flavor, but the paraphrase was completed entirely by using artificial intelligence and a finely tuned algorithm. So the Passion Translation and the Message Bible, you guys have been put on notice, man. But I got one. I mean, you can go online and look at the difference but I have an example of John 10:11 is just an example that they had online. And here's the regular, right? Here's from the Bible. "I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep." And here's the pirate version. "Arr, I be the fine sea captain. The fine sea captain offered his life for the crew." So imagine reading the Bible. They do offer, now I got to say, they do offer a free King James Bible with every purchase, right? So the creator's responsible for the criticisms of the Bible's creation, specifically the claim that it's blasphemy, right? So they offer this free King James saying, no, you were just kind of blah, blah, blah. Well, we talked about the Pigeon Bible, right?
The Pigeon Bible, yes, which is actually very useful to evangelize Hawaiians.
Yes. But and again, the critics say the version prompts more questions on what the Bible really says. So just, and it's not quite as blaspheming as I think the Passion Translation, But
yes, that is much worse.
That's crazy. And adding John 22 or whatever he wants to add, we went to heaven and saw John. Yeah. So they haven't gone there. They're offering the King James, a free King James with every purchase. So you can kind of, I think it's more fun. But then again, the thing was, it was created by AI. It was created by AI.
Yeah.
And
and the AI did it probably really fast. And it was on the fancy of a person that, to me, it sounds like they just want to make fun.
Yeah.
They want something to laugh at.
But look at someone like Harari, and he wants to. He says we're gonna have a new Bible, new this, new that, and that's their whole. Yeah, he's the the crazy what he said the other day.
Yeah.
So
Well, our last topic is The Sound of Freedom, the new Jim Caviezel movie.
Yeah.
Doing really well at the box office. So that's one thing.
Yep. We looked at some of the numbers, but it's been held back. And the thing is I know Jim Caviezel, I watched him today on TBN, believe it or not. I know you laughed at me, but I watched him and but I watch everything. I can down, I've been there. I've been at TBN so many times, so I can separate the falsity, but I just want the information. And him and Tim Ballard, I don't know what Tim Ballard is, but he's definitely a Christian, or maybe he's a Catholic as well as Caviezel. I don't know, but I know that Jim Caviezel is a Catholic, but he does play, but it's bringing new light to the child trafficking. And this movie it was shot 5 years ago. And it's just a struggle to put it out. He talks about that and he talks about this stuff, but it's not, we watch, we watch Jimmy Fallon or someone, and it's, what's worse, watching the Christian version of Jimmy Fallon or watching Jimmy Fallon. So, but anyway, Caviezel, he plays Tim Ballard, a former government agent who embarks on a mission to rescue children from sex traffickers in Colombia. And the true stories of these rescues are rather remarkable. But it's crazy. The left is up in arms with this whole thing. I mean, I watched a CNN interview and they're like saying, oh, you don't, it's, they call it QAnon conspiracy and totally played it down. What we're seeing in the entire media is launching a coordinated smear campaign against the Sound of Freedom to stop its momentum. So it's crazy. Almost every one of my YouTube follows is interviewing Tim or Jim or both, but yeah, CNN, I can't believe that they did, but I call it the pro media, the pro pedo media. They're terrified of the masses seeing this film. Yeah. And I talked about with you in the pre-show, the couple that I trained in the morning, they went and saw it and got angry. They were like, they were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is going on. And I go, hey, welcome, knowing about it, welcome to my world. And I don't know why all of a sudden it's out. It should have been exposed years ago, and it's been going on for a long time, and it's going to get bigger and bigger. I just think it's going to get bigger and bigger. And I just think of the words of Jesus, a warning, Matthew 18:4-6. Whoever humbles himself as a child, he is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Whoever receives one such child in my name receives me. But whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to stumble, it would be better for him to have a heavy millstone hung around his neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. So I just always think about the kids, man, and what's going on with the young innocent. And it's just crazy how big it is right now. And then in the elites that are attacking it, because the Jeffrey Epstein thing, all this thing,
Oh, I mean, I'll give you a prime example. Even our government is kind of colluding with it, because Allison Mack, who was basically grooming young women for her cult leader of Navixum, she got a slap on the wrist, 2 years in a minimum security prison, and now she's released. And that's for luring young women to be involved in a sex cult and being branded into a sex cult.
Wow, I hadn't heard that. Wow.
She was just released.
Wow. That's, man.
Just goes to show you, when you turn state's evidence, you get a sweetheart deal. I would not be surprised if Miss Maxwell will not be paroled very soon. Yeah,
Jesselyn. Yeah, I think they're or I don't know if she's going to disappear or not. I don't know, because she's got the receipts too.
She does.
But but she's got the protection as well. So it's crazy. Yeah. Yep.
Ken, take us home.
We did it. So there's a lot of bad news and a couple comments. I read the comments, so you guys comment on what we talk about, and we do read them. Jay and I do read them. But one of the comments was, there's so much negative news and blah blah blah. And I know it's negative, but we have to keep our eyes on Christ, and we need to follow this stuff. We need to keep this stuff in a view to where we can know what's coming, and we have to pray for God's wisdom to help us mitigate ourselves through this. All right. We need to be in his word. We need to be in prayer. We need to be in fellowship. And we just need to trust Jesus and trust God that it's his perfect timing that he has for us. And each of us is on this planet. If you're a believer, you're on this planet for as long as he wants you here. So trust me, I believe that. I've almost been on the other, I've almost been crossing over, I don't know how many times. So, but just have the faith, have, just trust in Jesus. That's all I got to say. Trust in Jesus.
Amen. And, Ken, I just want to add to that anything that God has revealed to you that's negative in the world, he's put it there for a reason. He's put it there so you can pray against it.
Yes.
Put it there so that you can think about it. You can act on it. You can pray about it. You can talk to people about it. You can raise awareness.
Absolutely agree. Yes.
We really want to just thank you. We do, like you said, we do read your comments, and we'll be reading them, I'm sure, after this episode. So thank you for sticking with us, tuning in. God bless you. This has been another episode of Ken's Corner.